much. And I much appreciate being invited to this space. And I'm going to focus my energies on talking about that biggest mountain of them all, as Hugh would have it, Mount Finance, because it does seem to me that everything depends on sorting out the finances. And when we're talking about finances, there is going to be a terrible shock to public finances across the world, in fact. As a result of COVID, there'll be falling GDPs, falling tax revenues, and therefore gaps in public service budgets unless action is taken, and action needs to be taken now, and it's needed urgently. And quite frankly, it's not about building back better, but building in I think, a feminist transformative manner, seizing the moment of this COVID crisis to really put an end to 40 years of neoliberal, patriarchal market fundamentalism, and to put forward green, progressive, feminist alternatives. Don't let anyone ever tell you that the money is not there to transform public education and all other public services across Africa. The money is there. It's about political choices, and it's about the pressure the governments feel from their citizens. And the most powerful voices in many cases will be young people and students holding their government to account, demanding a change from so many years of dysfunctional failure to invest in quality public education and public services. A couple of months ago, 190 organizations signed on to a call for action on sustainable financing of education post-COVID, focusing on domestic financing. And I'm going to say a few things about the big recommendations that come from that call to action. First of all, look, there's loads of money in every country to pay for public services. It's sitting there, but it gets taken away before anything can be considered to be spent on public services by the need to service debts. And unless there is a massive new round of debt cancellation and radical debt renegotiation, it's going to be, we're not going to make the sort of progress that we need. There is some movement on this from the G20 and but it's much too little and not on the scale of ambition that's needed. We estimate any country that's spending over 12% of its national budget on servicing debt ends up cutting public spending. And so we need to look at drawing a line and making sure all future loans are taken out in a transparent and accountable way, because at the moment loans are taken out without that proper oversight, and revenue is often not wisely invested. There has to be a new process of debt cancellation. I think UNCTAD estimate about $1 trillion disappears from developing countries between 2020 and 2021 in debt servicing. The money is there. The question is, how do you spend it? Do you spend it on providing services for your citizens or paying back debt, which in many cases was taken on in an untransparent and unaccountable way? So we need a massive new movement for debt cancellation. Then alongside that, we need a massive resurgence or a new movement linking those struggling for public services, those struggling for tax justice. We've just published a collection of 25 articles. We had a couple of articles from the All Africa Student Union about education justice and tax justice, published by this group called NORAG. This is a connection that needs to be made. Most countries can expand their tax to GDP ratio by at least 5% within a 5-year period, according to the IMF. And we have shown in Action Aid that can be done through progressive taxes on wealth, on property, and particularly on big corporate incomes. Recent research a lot of young people are frontline workers in health, in education, in other public services. And if we don't actually, if there's a squeeze in the financing for public services, that will be an end to so many economic opportunities and decent work for young people. There's a lot more in that call to action. We certainly need to still fight for more aid, more harmonized aid, and aid that comes without ideologically driven conditions. But there is a clear agenda for transforming financing of public services. Most countries across Africa should be doubling their spending on education and on health and on other public services. It can be done. It's about political choices. It's about economic choices. It's about ending this 40 years of chronic underfunding under neoliberalism. And I think that everyone needs to be part of that struggle right now. Thanks very much.